You've walked a beautiful path of self-discovery. You've experienced profound clarity, perhaps even a gentle breakdown that cracked you wide open. You expected to feel lit up, passionate, maybe even on fire. But instead, you're just empty. Your usual motivations have vanished, and you're left with one unsettling question. Why do I feel so unmotivated now that I've finally seen my truth? Beloved, this isn't a setback, and it's certainly not failure. This is a profound, sacred paradox that no one tells you about spiritual awakening. Today we're going to illuminate why this unexpected emptiness is actually your greatest gift, and how to embrace this sacred pause as the most crucial step in your journey to authentic joy and purpose, inspired by Louise Hay's timeless wisdom. I remember speaking with Sarah, a 42-year-old teacher from Portland, who had devoted years to her spiritual growth. She'd read every Louise Hay book, practiced affirmations daily, and truly understood the power of loving thoughts. Then, after a profound healing experience during a particularly challenging time, everything shifted. She saw through the illusion of needing external validation, of chasing achievements to feel worthy. And yet, 2 months later, she found herself staring at her bedroom ceiling, struggling to find motivation for anything. I used to cry over not being enough, she told me. Now I don't even care if I accomplish anything at all. I thought awakening would light me up from the inside, not leave me feeling like this. I am safe in the quiet spaces of my soul. I trust the wisdom of my inner journey. Louise Hay always taught us that healing isn't linear, and awakening, true awakening, follows the same sacred rhythm. What Sarah was experiencing, what you might be experiencing right now, isn't failure or depression in the traditional sense. It's something much more profound and, yes, much more sacred. When we truly awaken to our authentic selves, we don't just change our thinking, we transform our entire operating system. All those goals we used to chase, the endless to-do lists, the 5-year plans, the constant need to prove ourselves, they simply don't resonate anymore. Not because we're failing, but because our motivation system itself is being lovingly rebuilt from the ground up. For most of our lives, our drive came from a wounded place, the part of us that believed we weren't enough as we were. We wanted to prove ourselves, to be seen, to be successful, to finally feel worthy of love. And while this isn't inherently wrong, it's simply how we learn to survive in a world that often forgot to remind us of our inherent worth. But the awakening process gently strips away these false motivations. Suddenly, you're not trying to be liked because you remember that you are love itself. You're not trying to win a game because you see that the only game worth playing is the one where everyone wins, especially you. I release the need to prove my worth. I am valuable simply because I exist. This is where the beautiful confusion begins. Without those old motivations, your previous goals don't fit anymore. They were tailored to a version of you that was operating from lack, from fear, from the belief that you needed to earn your place in this world. Now you're like an actress who stepped off stage and realized she was never meant to play that character in the first place. That's why you feel unmotivated, sweet soul. You didn't lose your drive. You outgrew the fuel that powered it. And this is exactly what's supposed to happen. Louise Hay always reminded us that we're not here to serve our fears or our wounds. We're here to heal them, to love them, and to align with something infinitely more beautiful, our authentic selves. This isn't the small self that craves approval, but the magnificent self that knows its worth, the soul-level truth that connects you to everything and everyone. And this authentic self doesn't care about status or external validation or even having all the answers. It's here to express love, to be love, to remember that love is what you are. So once awakening happens, your entire being starts recalibrating. It begins lovingly rejecting anything that doesn't honor your truth. Jobs that drain your spirit, relationships that diminish your light, ambitions that come from wounds rather than wholeness. Even that vision board you created when you still believed you needed to fix yourself. I trust my heart's wisdom to guide me toward what truly serves my highest good. This is why people often describe awakening as both freeing and disorienting. You've been liberated from old patterns, but you haven't yet learned to dance with your new freedom. Some beautiful souls get stuck here, convincing themselves that nothing matters because it's all just an illusion. They confuse detachment with disconnection, spiritual understanding with emotional numbness. But your authentic self wants something entirely different. It wants to live through you, to bring heaven into your human experience. It doesn't reject the world. It redefines your sacred role within it. Meet Jennifer, a 38-year-old marketing executive from Chicago who experienced this exact transformation. After years of climbing the corporate ladder, she had a profound awakening during a meditation retreat. She realized that her relentless pursuit of success was really a desperate attempt to fill a void that could only be filled with self-love. I came home from that retreat and couldn't bring myself to care about quarterly reports. She shared. For months, I felt like I was floating. My husband was worried. My friends didn't understand. But something deep inside me knew I was exactly where I needed to be. I honor the sacred pauses in my journey. I am exactly where I need to be. What Jennifer was experiencing, what you might be experiencing, is what I call the sacred pause. It's not a failure or a setback. It's a holy intermission between who you used to be and who you're becoming. In this space, you've released identification with your wounded self, but you haven't yet fully embodied your healed self. This isn't a problem to be solved. It's a sacred passage to be honored. But in our productivity-obsessed world, stillness gets misdiagnosed as laziness. Rest gets mistaken for giving up. So you judge yourself, and that judgment blocks the very love your soul is trying to call back home. This psychological pause is actually a profound gift. It's the moment when your inner pendulum swings from fear-driven striving to love-based being. You go from, I must do everything to prove I'm worthy, to why do anything that doesn't come from love. And this swing is not only natural, it's necessary for true healing. In ancient wisdom traditions, this is the hermit phase, the sacred death before rebirth. It's the moment the caterpillar dissolves into possibility inside the cocoon. Not a butterfly yet, not a caterpillar anymore. Just pure potential, pure love, reorganizing itself. I trust the process of my transformation. Love is reorganizing my life in perfect ways. And yes, pure potential doesn't check items off lists. It doesn't hustle or force or push. It simply allows, trusts, and receives. This is where the old part of you might panic, wanting action and direction and proof that you're still productive. But your authentic self is whispering gently, "Let go, beloved. I'm creating something beautiful." Here's where much of modern spirituality misses the mark. It teaches us to follow our joy or maintain high vibes only. And while intention and energy absolutely matter, Louise Hay would remind you that if you try to skip the healing, you skip the miracle. True transformation requires us to lovingly face and embrace all parts of ourselves, even the parts that feel uncomfortable or confused. This sacred emptiness you're feeling is where your unconscious patterns finally have space to surface and be healed. You're not failing, darling. You're integrating. And your psyche, in its infinite wisdom, will pause your old motivations on purpose, creating space for you to feel, witness, and lovingly reclaim what you've been carrying. I welcome all parts of myself with love and compassion. I am healing at the perfect pace. Take Maria, a 45-year-old artist from Austin, who went through this exact process. After a spiritual awakening triggered by her mother's passing, she found herself unable to create for months. I used to paint from pain, she told me. Suddenly, I didn't have that pain anymore, but I didn't know what else to paint from. For 6 months, Maria sat with her canvases, feeling empty and confused. Well-meaning friends suggested she was depressed, that she should get back out there. But Maria trusted the process. She spent those months in gentle self-care, journaling, taking long walks, and practicing the affirmation. I trust that love is preparing something beautiful through me. When inspiration finally returned, it was completely different. I started painting from joy, she said, from gratitude, from wonder. The work that emerged was more authentic than anything I'd ever created. I had to empty out the old to make room for the new. I trust that love is preparing something beautiful through me. And here's the miraculous truth. When you stop resisting the void, when you stop judging the pause, something extraordinary begins to happen. Motivation starts to return, but it feels completely different this time. It's not anxious or performative or desperate. It's something ancient and gentle, a soul-led movement that feels like remembering rather than chasing. This is the emergence of authentic motivation, not driven by wounds but guided by love, not seeking to prove anything but simply expressing the truth of who you are. So you've walked through the sacred pause. You've felt the silence, the stillness, the deep rest. And now, something new is beginning to stir within you. Not like lightning or fireworks, but like the gentle sunrise, quiet, inevitable, and absolutely perfect. This is where your authentic self begins to speak. Not in words, but in whispers of the heart, in gentle nudges, in what Louise called the voice of love within. Once you've surrendered the need to force and control, once you've integrated the parts of yourself that were crying out for attention, you become capable of living from a place deeper than personality. Life stops being about survival and becomes about service. Service to love, to truth, to the magnificent being you were always meant to be. I listen to the gentle voice of love within me. I am guided by wisdom and grace, and here's what's beautifully surprising. It's often wonderfully ordinary. When love leads, you don't hustle. You respond. You're not motivated by fear of missing out. You're guided by what feels aligned with your truth. You no longer chase clarity like it's running away from you. You recognize it when it gently arrives. Living from your authentic self doesn't mean you'll always feel motivated in the traditional sense. You might still experience waves of tiredness, confusion, even grief. That's part of being beautifully human. But what you won't feel is that constant sense of betraying yourself, that exhausting feeling of dragging yourself through a life that doesn't fit your soul. Instead, you might start to notice that you're drawn to create, even when no one's watching. You say no to opportunities that don't resonate, even if they look impressive on paper. You follow your curiosity rather than your should-do list. You choose peace over performance, authenticity over approval. I choose what honors my authentic self. I am worthy of a life that fits my soul. This is your new fuel, beloved. It's not adrenaline or anxiety or the desperate need to prove yourself. It's alignment. It's love. It's the deep knowing that you are enough, exactly as you are. right now. Consider Rebecca, a 41-year-old nurse from Denver, who experienced this transformation after a health scare led to her spiritual awakening. I used to work 60-hour weeks because I thought that's what good people did, she shared. After my awakening, I couldn't force myself to say yes to overtime anymore. At first, I felt guilty, like I was being selfish. But Rebecca learned to ask different questions. Instead of, "What should I do?" she began asking, "What would love do?" Instead of, "What's expected of me?" she asked, "What feels honest and true?" Instead of, "How can I prove I'm a good person?" she asked, "How can I honor the goodness that I am?" The shift was incredible, Rebecca continued. I started working with intention rather than obligation. I began saying no to extra shifts so I could say yes to time with my family, to my art, to rest. Paradoxically, I became a better nurse because I was taking care of myself too. I ask what love would do, and I trust the answer that comes from my heart. This is what authentic motivation looks like. It's not about giving up ambition. It's about transforming it. Ambition becomes devotion to truth, to presence, to growth, to love. And the beautiful irony is that this kind of energy accomplishes far more than fear-based motivation ever could. But now it's sustainable. Now it's soul-powered. Now it comes from wholeness rather than wounds. This is love's motivation, not to impress others, but to express your authentic self. And it often leads you to create, serve, heal, teach, and build in ways you never imagined. Not because you should, but because your entire being whispers, yes. Take Linda, a 39-year-old accountant from Seattle, who discovered her calling as a life coach after her awakening. I spent years thinking I had to stay in my practical job, she said. But after my spiritual transformation, I couldn't ignore the pull to help other women find their authentic selves. It wasn't a dramatic career change. It was a gentle unfolding of who I'd always been underneath the fear. I trust the gentle unfolding of my authentic path. Love guides me to my highest expression. Linda didn't quit her job overnight. Instead, she began offering free coaching sessions to friends, started a blog about self-love, and slowly built a practice that felt aligned with her soul's purpose. The motivation felt completely different, she explained. Instead of forcing myself to network or market aggressively, I simply shared my truth and trusted that the right people would find me. And they did. So if you've been feeling like your spark has dimmed after awakening, understand this. It's not that your light went out. The old fire burned away so you could discover a deeper flame. One that doesn't flicker when external winds blow. One that burns steady and true, because it's fueled by love rather than fear. Louise Hay never promised that the path of self-love would be easy, but she promised it would be worth it. And if you're here, listening to these words, you're already walking that sacred path. It's not about getting back your old motivation. It's about discovering a new one, rooted in wholeness rather than wounds, in love rather than lack. I am discovering new depths of motivation rooted in love and wholeness. This isn't the end of your awakening. Beautiful soul, this is the beginning of your becoming. You're not broken or lost or behind schedule. You're exactly where you need to be, learning to live from love instead of fear, from truth instead of conditioning, from your authentic self instead of who you thought you had to be. The sacred pause is ending, the gentle stirring is beginning, and the world is waiting for the gift that only you can bring. The gift of your authentic, awakened, love-filled self. Remember, you are enough. You have always been enough. And everything you need to create a life that honors your truth is already within you, waiting to be expressed with love. I am enough. I have always been enough. Love is expressing itself perfectly through me. If this message spoke to your heart, if it helped you name something you've been quietly navigating, I'd love to hear about your journey in the comments below. And if you're ready for more content that honors both your spiritual growth and your human experience, content that reminds you of your inherent worth while supporting your continued expansion, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Because awakening isn't the end of your story, beloved. It's where your real story, the story of living as love itself, finally begins.